Good morning, Canes fans. Peter Ariz here with the Canes Insight Daily Podcast. As always, bringing you instant reaction to Miami's spring practices. And as always, like to remind you, if this is your first time seeing this, I'm here in the parking lot outside of Green Tree. I actually have the Watsco Center behind me right now, parked in a different lot today. But if I'm looking down here, I have my laptop here, so want to make sure I get to all my notes and all that stuff. So juggling a couple different things. Apologize for that, but trying to bring you the best information right up to date as I possibly can. Just left Miami's practice right now. As always, these shows brought to you by the law offices of Anajar and Levine, accident attorneys. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733 to take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right, guys. So as I pull up my notes here, just getting into it, and obviously we only get 25-30 minutes here in practice, but I feel like we got a little bit more competitive nature today. So, more head-to-head battles instead of just like solo positional work. So I got to see a few more things. But starting with the defensive lineman, spoke to someone who was at practice the other day, and then also doing some digging of my own outside of it. I think right now at D tackle, the guy who seems to be emerging from people who have been there, the guy who's sticking out, Justin Scott, right? We saw the big jump he took from a physical standpoint, added a lot of weight, a lot of strength, a lot of power. Was a top 10, top 5 recruit coming in last year. Sometimes it's hard for those guys in the interior trenches to have the right weight and strength, especially a guy like him who's a basketball player. But it looks like he's taking that next step. Him and David Belay, I would say right now, probably that's the favorites to be the starters. Ahmad Moten heavily, in the mix there. Those three names have been mentioned to me a lot. Now, D Money might tell you something different. I don't think it's going to be that far off from what I said. David Belay, a lot of expectations for him coming in from Louisiana Tech, but Justin Scott, I believe the arrow is pointing up big time for him. And why wouldn't it be, considering he's had a year under his belt, has taken those steps necessary in terms of the weight room stuff, and has all the talent in the world to become a consistent impact player for Miami. Got to look at the defensive backs up close today, which we normally do, but was really paying attention to Will Harris, his coaching. They were working on a lot of tackling stuff today from when we were there, working on driving the left shoulder through the ball carrier and not getting too high. Was correcting a couple of the guys on that. But again, just with same thing I said with Corey Heatherman, like the demeanor of these coaches, not just screaming and yelling every rep. And I'm not saying the guys previously did that, but I've been coming to practices here now for 15 years, and you can't always tell how a guy carries himself, whether or not they're a good coach or not. But I think it does go a long way. Also got some word from people in the NFL that I know who were familiar with Will Harris when he was with the Chargers. So and heard good things about his work there. So good reputation, and just seeing these guys up close, the attention to detail. That's Zach Etheridge mentioned today, and because they're those guys are coaching together, and Etheridge was mentioning attention to detail. He said that phrase one time in particular when Coach Harris had told one of the guys to do something. So they're working off each other, and I think it's going to be cool to see them recruit as well, which we've already seen them hitting the trail hard. So and JR Godfather says, every day I keep seeing Poyser and Lucas clips. Looks like a complete night and day change for the secondary. Xavier Lucas had, and that was something I was going to say later here, but had a really nice pass breakup on Dalen Upshaw on an outbreaking route towards the sideline. Really tight coverage, and just got over the top and made a nice play to break it up. So Lucas is as advertised. Poyser, think he's locked in as one of the starters at safety, but excited to see him continue to come along, coming over from Jacksonville State. Malachi Tony, just I put this note in here because it wasn't anything crazy. There was no defender on him, but he ran a route up the seam once, and it's just the smoothness, not even just with the route running, but when the ball was in the air, he kind of, and D Money mentioned this yesterday with JoJo Trader, that he does this as well, but something with the body control when the ball's in the air and the confidence. It almost looked like he was letting the ball, you know, p- pass by his face, but he kind of contorted his body in a way where he then catches it and is able to position himself to get upfield. So it's those little details, those little intricacies of the wide receiver position, why I think he's a baller, right? We've seen his high school stuff. We've seen him play a bunch of different positions, but the work ethic and those little details, I think we saw that was the difference for Xavier Restrepo a lot of the time, right? In winning a lot of those one-on-one battles. I think Tony is on the right path, and I think we're going to see him be a part of this offense and have a role, no doubt about it to me. So, continuing to go down these notes here. I know it's kind of all over the place, guys. I apologize, but when you're out there at practice, you got a million things going on. You're looking for certain things to stick out. So I'm just reading them off of literally the chronological order of kind of when things happen during practice. So linebackers, they were working on shedding blocks today, using the hands to shed the blocks and getting that pop in your hands. And a couple good reps that Corey Heatherman was really excited about. Darius Hayes and Ezekiel Marcelin, two completely different body types. Hayes, we've mentioned how he towers. I mean, he's 6'4", got real good size to him, is a thumper, not afraid to use that physicality. And you saw it in that drill. Heatherman was really pumped up. And Ezekiel Marcelin, who has come in and is not going to be sticking out in terms of, he doesn't look like a Hayden Lowe, who's obviously a defensive end, but not sticking out in that sense from a stature standpoint. But I think the coaches and a Corey Heatherman, who's such a guy that we talk about the details with these new coaches. I think Marcelin, I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I think he's going to be a guy that the coaches are going to trust. And Corey Heatherman and those coaches are going to, look for him to progress. And if he can handle it from an athletic standpoint and a strength standpoint, maybe we see him earlier than expected. But I think he's coming along. D Money mentioned him as a guy who's been solid. Kirk Ranger, appreciate the comment. Everyone hit that like button. We got 300 plus on here. Like, subscribe to the channel. As always, bring you these instant reactions. Going through these notes here, we've had a lot of questions about Elias Rudolph, Marquise Lightfoot, and Booker Pickett. Three guys who came in with length, quickness, twitch, pass rushers, obviously off the edge. I think right now, out of those three, in terms of size alone, Booker Pickett looks the farthest along. He looks like he's added serious mass to his body. I think with all three of these guys still, even though Pickett to me looks a little bit ahead physically, Lightfoot and Rudolph are never going to be 260, 270 pound DNs. I mentioned this a few times. They're going to win with their speed, right? So I don't know that their frame is going to allow them to be like 250. I think a good range for those guys, 235, 240, and let them get after the quarterback with that speed on the edge. There's going to be a role for these sort of guys in Corey Heatherman's defense. But from what I've seen, I just think that Pickett is just a little bit ahead. Coach Cullup, the women's basketball coach, just walked behind me here. Listen, this is a beautiful thing about being at the U, man, and being here on campus, right? Parked at the Watsco Center right now. So as we keep moving, Brock shot in one-on-ones. Nice. He had a deep touchdown back of the end zone. It was on a walk-on. So not gonna hype it up too much, but people got excited about that one. Brock shot. Someone at tight end. Miami needs some of those young tight ends. D Money mentioned Owen Ruskovich as a potential blocking tight end option as a walk-on. Huge. He's huge. Number 44, 6'7", with some real size on him. So could he be like a third tight end, fourth tight end, maybe near the goal line? Who knows? But Brock Shot had a nice touchdown today. And then I'll leave you with this, guys. Mark Fletcher We haven't heard much about him during the spring. He looked really good today. He looked really, really good today. Looking nifty, looking lean. His size is never a thing with him. People I think, have been huge fans of Fletcher the first 2 years, but I don't think they realize how good he can really be. He's been an awesome complementary piece to this offense, and they've been able to lean on him at times, but don't sleep. His ceiling is not where he is now. This is a guy who I don't want to let me pull up the numbers real quick, but it feels like he's like a 4.5, 5 yard yards per carry guy every time he gets it. Let's see, or 5.4 yards a carry last year, 4.9 the year before that. So you understand he takes 2 steps and he picks up 5 yards, but I think that quickness, we're going to see him. We don't always, when you talk about game breaking speed, yes, everyone wants those 60, 70-yard touchdown runs, but I think he's going to be able to bust off 15, 20 yarders with ease. So let me get to a question here. Johnny Lagoon asked about the D tackle rotation: Blaze, Scott, Moten, and then who? Jones, Blunt, Horton, maybe Bain coming in. I mean, look, right now, obviously there's packages, but I think Blunt and Bain are still playing more as defensive ends. Josh Horton has the size. We've been waiting for him to come along. Wasn't completely healthy last year, hasn't been consistent, but I'm not going to discount a guy with those physicals out of the equation. Artavius Jones has a big opportunity here, man. Artavius Jones is a really big opportunity because I think, just talking to some people about him, they needed him to take that next step maturity-wise. And has nothing to say that he's a bad kid or anything, but knowing the opportunity that's here for a guy like him takes maturity and seizing it, right? Not just saying, well, I was a freshman last year, I understood I probably, wasn't going to play all that much. This is make or break for him. As crazy as that may sound, let me take it back. It's not make or break is a little it's a little extreme, but like, I think if he's going to take that step, it's going to be now, right? That light bulb. I don't like to wait I don't like to wait around for it to go off, right? Some guys either have it or they don't. I'm not saying he's in that boat, but we've seen what he can do in the weight room. Basketball court, we saw that athletic ability, those quicks. Let's just hope that he can put it all together now here in the spring. Guys, thank you all for tuning in today for this episode. Again, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys, as always, for your support of the show. See you guys later. Hit that like button, subscribe. Go Canes.